Hi, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Baker's High School Huddle, where we talk high school football all night long. Frank Frangie, Justin Barney from the Florida Times Union. It's crunch time now, isn't it? We're starting to decide some districts almost every week.
Very good games last week. We saw this week they're going into quite a few more. It's elimination games for a lot of these teams.
Yeah, it really is that time of the year. So we're going to talk about various districts and which districts are being decided and which ones aren't yet decided, but we're getting closer and closer. Let's start with 3-5A and that terrific Bishop Kenny football team. Bishop Kenny's on a streak of 5 straight trips to the playoffs. That's the longest streak in school history. Mark Thorson has done just a terrific job, and I mean a terrific job, with this Bishop Kenny football team. They were on the road Friday night to play Yulee to try and continue to advance to the postseason. That is our game of the week. All right, let's do it. Let's get right to the videotape. An interesting game at Yulee. Yulee, where Derrick Henry played, obviously, but obviously not as good a team this year. But certainly this is a Bishop Kenny football team that's a pretty talented team. Mark Thorson really has it going over there, doesn't he?
He's a good coach. He's got a very good coaching staff, and they know what system they like to run, and they run that to perfection.
And I tell you what, they don't have a lot of great college prospects year in and year out, but more and more, it starts with this guy this year, Jackson Bradley, to Charles Wade, one of the best players in the area, 75 yards on the first play of the game.
Yeah, I think on his first 2 touches, he was over 150 yards. Just a fantastic playmaker.
What a terrific player on his way to Wake Forest. You heard Justin say his first 2 touches. That was touch number 1. Here's touch number 2. This is an 83-yard touchdown run. This guy's physical, he's fast, one of the best players in the area, and just like that, Kenny was off to a 14-0 lead. You knew Kenny would play well in this game. I'm not sure anybody knew they would play that well. Boy, they're just getting going. Jackson Bradley, that's the transfer from Episcopal now, throws a touchdown pass to Ingram, Julian Ingram right here, and boy, the Crusaders are rolling.
Very nice passing offense. Once they get into that rhythm, they are very difficult to stop.
And when you throw the ball, sometimes you throw it, you're able to set up the run with the pass. This is Zach Gushanis. Got injured a little bit later on in the game, but he's a nice physical running back as well.
And, you know, you got to remember this is a Yulee defense that ranks in the top 5 in the area, both rushing and pass defense.
Don't be down to Charles Wade yet, because here's a little slant pass. A 3rd touchdown for Wade, a 10-yarder, and Kenny is really rolling. Now, look, Yulee was trying to battle back into this thing. This is certainly life after Derrick Henry for Coach Bobby Ramsey. So Yulee started to drive a little bit after Kenny got out to the lead. They hit a pass here or there. They're trying to drive down against this Bishop Kenny football team. They're playing at home now, so they're trying to get back in this thing. A few passes, a few runs, and then ultimately Brody Vincent is the quarterback. He's able to get Yulee on the board. This is an 11-yard touchdown run, and it looked like maybe, just maybe, they had a little something going.
Yeah, you're down though. You're down 34-7 at this point. Yulee not a big play offense like that. They prefer to run the ball, and you don't have that kind of offense to do that.
They started driving again, and it looked like maybe, just maybe, they could get back in this thing. This is a pretty good run here. So you're thinking, okay, does Yulee have a chance to get back in this game? The home crowd got in it a little bit. The home crowd wasn't in it much, but then this fumble. Tyler Jordan, the big recruit on his way to the University of Florida, recovers it, and you know what that means. That means one more touchdown for Bishop Kenny after the recovery. Jackson Bradley did it all really through the air throughout the course of this game. There's Jordan with the recovery. This time he does it on the ground. This guy's a good player, by the way. Transferred in from Episcopal, 1 year at Bishop Kenny, got a chance to play a little bit of college football. He bangs it in. That makes it 34-7. Those are the final points of the game. And Bishop Kenny rolls in District 3-5A. They roll over Yulee. You see the numbers there. 195 total yards for Charles Wade. He is such a good player. Gushanis ran awfully well as well. After the game, our Lauren Brooks had a chance to catch up with victorious coach Mark Thorson.
I'm here with the victorious Coach Thorson. And Coach, what a big win for your team. How important was this as they head into the rest of the season?
Yeah, it's huge. We're in that spot right now in the district where we got to win. So this game was important to us, and now next week becomes even more important. So huge to get a victory under our belt, and we'll go see you at we have injury-wise when we get home here. There
was a lot more injuries than we're used to, but hopefully everyone's going to be just fine for next week. Yeah. What will you work on this week as you looking ahead towards Baker County?
You know, I think we're going to have to do a better job of stopping the run, and we're going to have to do a better job of running the ball ourselves. So those 2 things are going to be important. As every week, you know, it's a fight out here. Our district's really tight.
That second touchdown, did you have that plan before the game, or did you call that after you saw Charles Wade's first touchdown?
Well, we get in his hands as much as we can, like I said, but that was on our script to try to get it to him early. You don't expect that to go for a touchdown, but that's the kind of player he is. Anytime you get it in his hands, he's electric. He can take it all the way.
Excellent. Thanks so much, Coach, and we look forward to seeing you next week.
Appreciate it. Good to see you.
Lauren, thank you, and congratulations to Coach Thorson and this Bishop Kenny football team. They roll on. Again, it's kind of life after Johnny Wolford, but they haven't missed a beat. Kenny's still awfully good offensively, which is kind of what they created in the Johnny Wolford area. Before we move on, let's talk about this guy, Charles Wade. You've made mention really kind of throughout the course of our program that this guy's one of the best players in the area. What makes Wade such a good and such a complete player?
Just, he's got a nose for the football. And, you talk to Mark Thorson, and it's about getting the ball into Charles Wade's hand however possible. They put him on defense. He's a safety on there, and he's just made some fantastic plays coming out of that secondary position. You run the ball with him. You pass. You throw balls to him. Any way you can get the ball in the hands of Chuck Wade, you've got to do it.
For the longest, and he really is a terrific player. And in fact, I even find myself wondering, what's he going to play? There you see him as a receiver. We showed you some of that. He could be a running back, a slot back, a receiver. He also could be a defensive back, couldn't he? I don't know if he's got cornerback speed, but he certainly could be a safety. Where do you see him projecting at Wake Forest?
He's kind of a guy, you look at him and he's almost a Percy Harvin on offense. Right. He can do things out of the running back position, catch passes. I think he's a fantastic safety. He kind of reminds me of what Ahmad Fullwood did at Bishop Kenny. Ahmad Fullwood played in that secondary position, but dynamic with the ball in his hands. And if you're at Wake Forest, you want to give him as many touches as possible, and that to me is the offensive side of the ball.
For a lot of years, Bishop Kenny didn't have a lot of guys that went on to play college football. But then that streak started about 5 or 6 years ago. Brett Whitmire, the quarterback, kind of started it, went on to play at Valdosta State. Johnny Wolford came along. He is now at Wake Forest and starting. Ahmad Fullwood is now at Florida. The Bassford brothers, Ryan Bassford went on to be an offensive tackle at Navy. Neil Bassford is now a tight end at Wake Forest. And now, of course, Charles Wade. They've really done that. They all of a sudden are producing a bunch of college football players when for the longest time Bishop Kenny really didn't.
Yeah, and you look at that, and I think that's coaching, bringing the right guys into the system, and really grooming those players. Even a Tyler Jordan going on to maybe Florida after the season.
And I forgot about Tyler Jordan. You're exactly right. So an awful lot of good prospects moving on from Bishop Kenny. Let's take a break. When we come back, we'll get into a public school game. Mandarin is a resurgent football program. They were on the road at Sandalwood on Thursday night. They're trying to get to the playoffs as well. We'll discuss Mustangs and Saints after this. Welcome back, everyone, to Baker's High School Huddle. High school football is really getting crazy toward the end of the year. Now, we've talked about a number of different rivalry games and a number of different rivalries where teams play each other to play every year. Well, Mandarin and Sandalwood have played forever. In baseball, they had a great rivalry just last spring. And now in football, it looks like the rivalry is back. Adam Geist has done so many good things with that Sandalwood program. Mandarin had to get it going. But now with Brian Braddock there, it looks like the Mustangs really have arrived. Mandarin and Sandalwood, suddenly a very good district rivalry in high school football. So let's get right to the tape. Interesting game here, Justin. This is a team that hasn't always been able to hang around with this Sandalwood team, but they certainly can now.
Yeah, I think that comes with a change in mindset and knowing that you can do that thing, perform against these Sandalwood guys that they have not been able to do in the past.
Mandarin got the scoring started. This is Tyler Greenlee to Mikey Sarakas. I think that's a touchdown. It's called a touchdown. I'm going to watch it again. Mandarin got off to a good start with his touchdown pass. Let's watch it. Justin, did he hang on here?
I think he hung on, but you got to question if that knee is down right before that goal line.
Yeah, it is called a touchdown, so Mandarin off to a very good start. They lead 7-0 on the road. That's a Thursday night game. This is called a touchdown as Sarakas comes down in the end zone. The ball pops out late. I don't think they have that college or pro rule where you got to catch it all the way to the ground, nor do they have replay in high school football. So that is a touchdown, and Mandarin off to a very good start. They lead 7-0 here on the road. Now Andre Kearney takes over. Three-yard touchdown run. This makes it 14-0. He's a good-looking back.
Very nice game for Andre. 26 carries, 135 yards, and a big part of that Mandarin rushing attack.
So it's 14-0 there. All of a sudden, Eli Peters gets it going. He's got a big arm, doesn't he? An 85-yard touchdown pass to Philip Benker.
Philip is the leading receiver in the Duval County area, so he's a big play waiting to happen every time he touches that ball.
Boy, they throw it a lot at Sandalwood, and they love to throw the football, but Mandarin bounces right back. Here's Kearney again. How about this run? 32-yard touchdown run for Andre Kearney, and all of a sudden it looks like a good night for the road team. This is a good-looking player, and Mandarin has revitalized that football program. It's taken a while, but they've got it back.
Glenn Palmer does something right here, and you've got to wonder, is that Sandalwood team kind of starting to end that Mandarin feel-good story this season?
Sandalwood bounces back on that 35-yard touchdown run, but Tyler Greenlee wasn't done. Neither was Mikey Sarakas. They connect again, this time for 39 yards. That's a good-looking ball, isn't it? Yeah. A little post pattern to Sarakas for the touchdown.
Yeah, Tyler throws a tight spiral, and these receivers he's got have been making plays all season.
Okay, so Sandalwood's still in it, though. Sandalwood wasn't backing down. Sandalwood's had kind of an up-and-down year. I like Eli Peters, though. Boy, he slings it as well. This is Russell Siebert, a touchdown as well in Sandalwood. That's 57 yards, so Sandalwood trying to battle back in it. That got it to 28-20, but that was about as close as the Saints would get. Interesting season for Sandalwood. They're probably not as many good players as they've had over the years. Interesting season nonetheless. Sandalwood comes back, but Mandarin wins the game in 1-8A. We'll get to the playoff scenarios in a minute. But what has Brian Braddock done that's brought this Mandarin program back? Obviously, there's a lot of kids at Mandarin, so there's going to be a lot of athletes there. Why has he been able to bring them back?
I think for him, it's just been convincing the guys that they can play, not being scared or intimidated when you see those First Coast jerseys, the Ed White jerseys, Sandalwood jerseys on the other sideline staring back at you. So I think the biggest thing for Brian has been getting those guys to buy into themselves.
We see coaches all the time that'll come from a winning program, St. Augustine or wherever, and will move on to another program. And I think they take a winning culture with them. Is that a big part of it as you see it?
Yeah, I really think so. You look at the two guys come to immediate mind, Josh Hoekstra at Clay, what he's done with the Blue Devils, and now Brian Braddock at Mandarin. Two of those guys, they're young guys. They fed off what they had at St. Augustine, and they're building their own programs there. But I think that winning pedigree comes right along with them.
The Joey Wiles coaching tree, right? Not only does he win a lot of games, but he sends coaches out as well, and he's done a very good job. So let's look at District 1-8A now. Sandalwood is eliminated early on. That doesn't happen very often to Adam Geist and the Saints, but this is one of those years where they were. First Coast has won the district. Now, having said that, Mandarin's still in this thing. Kind of outline, give us a sort of an overall view of what Mandarin has to do to get in.
The biggest thing for them, win on Thursday night against Flagler Palm Coast, and they're in the playoffs. They control their destiny. It's been a long, long time at Mandarin since they've done that this late in the season.
Yeah, it really has. It's been a long time, so congratulations to Mandarin. They move along, and again, Sandalwood will be back. Sandalwood finds a way to get back on a regular basis. They will be back as well. Let's take a break. When we come back, though, we are going to continue on with high school football. We're going to talk a little bit about Atlantic Coast. They won, but it wasn't necessarily a great night. We'll explain. Stay with us.
Welcome back to Baker's High School Huddle. The final here tonight was Bishop Kenny 34, Yulee 7. There is plenty of history here, though. Yulee's Derrick Henry ran for over 12,000 yards, the most prolific running back of all time. What a career he had here on the First Coast. Guys?
Lauren, thank you very much. Gosh, it's hard to believe, isn't it? 12,124 yards. I think we're going to look back. The more years we get away from what Derrick Henry did at Yulee, the more we'll realize how amazing it is. Past Ken Hall from legendarily Sugarland, Texas, like 58 years later. It really was amazing what that young man did at Yulee.
Yeah, and you look at, what he did in the playoffs every year of his career, what he did, against these big-time programs. And, you mentioned Ken Hall. That record stand for, 6 decades plus. Yeah. So, what he has done and bring that community together, bringing North Florida together, bring the attention of the nation on tiny Yulee, we're going to remember that for a long, long time.
No question about it. All right, let's get to games this past week. Atlantic Coast has sort of had an up-and-down season under Kevin Sullivan. At times, very good. At times, not as good as you might have thought they would be. But they had a chance on Friday night on the road to play a very good Fleming Island team, a Fleming Island team that went undefeated in the regular year last year. It was Atlantic Coast and Fleming Island. Let's get to the videotape. Atlantic Coast runs out. They're ready to play. Fleming Island walked out. Was that a precursor? We will certainly see, because the game didn't go the way I think a lot of people thought it would go. Interesting game, an interesting result, and it's interesting what the result wound up meaning. We'll start with, you talk about running backs. How about this guy? Terry Bennett, 54 yards. He's a good-looking back.
Very good two-sport athlete, and he's kind of been waiting to get it going like this all season.
He's a guy that could play college football or college baseball. You're exactly right. Very good at both. That is a 54-yard touchdown run. But Terry Bennett was just getting started. How about a 60-yard run to make it 14-0?
Terry can get it done. He's one of those very, very good assembly line backs at Atlantic Coast. They got a lot of them.
And let's talk about him. He's not the biggest guy, but he's a physical guy. This is a physical runner, knows how to make people miss. He does a lot of good things. He's kind of today's running back, isn't he?
He is exactly what you need in that system.
Yeah, he plays very, very well. Terry Bennett got it going. Great start for Atlantic Coast. Trey Simon's 29-yard field goal, that made it 17-0, and at that point, it was really all Atlantic Coast. They did it with the offense, but it wasn't just offense. They did it with the defense. Here's an interception for Jalen McLean-Sapp. Boy, offense and defense, for the longest time, boy, it was all Atlantic Coast. Finally, Fleming Island was able to get it going. Spencer Monow, this touchdown pass to Derek Smith, and finally a little bit of life for the home team.
Yeah, right before halftime, too. They needed that. You cannot go down in halftime 17-0 in a must-win game.
So it's 17-7 there, but here comes more Terry Bennett. He bangs it in from 3 yards out. All of a sudden, the running game, you talked about the running game, it really got going for Kevin Sullivan here. Bennett from 3 yards out. Then Terrell Wright from 4 yards out. They have a lot of backs, don't they?
A lot of good backs, too. LaShawn Ely's in there as well, Terrell Wright. A lot of good guys at Atlantic Coast.
And we haven't even seen Rashad Saxton yet. Oh, wait a minute. Now we do. 69 yards for Saxton. My goodness, did they go on and roll. What a win this is for the Stingrays. They win it 38-7 on the road against Fleming Island. That's a game I don't think anybody saw coming. They roll them 38-7. Big win for Atlantic Coast. Sort of a good news, bad news night, though, wasn't it, for Atlantic Coast? Atlantic Coast has maybe their most impressive night of the year on a night where they find out they're not going to the postseason. Explain how it happened.
Yeah, you look at Atlantic Coast, they kind of go from the euphoric of being just stomping Fleming Island to finding out right after that game that Fletcher had beaten Gainesville Buchholz and eliminated the Atlantic Coast from the playoff race, and really kind of heartbreaking for Atlantic Coast. They've been right there every season that they've been in district play with these 3-7A teams, just have not gotten it done.
So they're not moving on in 3-7A, and I know Kevin Sullivan pretty well. I can tell you he's going to think about that doggone Hail Mary forever, isn't he? Remember, they had beaten Oakleaf in their mind, and Oakleaf hit a Hail Mary, Justin, to beat them at the end of the game, or Atlantic Coast is moving on, right?
Yeah, at that point, it's, Oakleaf walks off with this win 16-14 on a Hail Mary at the very last play of the game. Fantastic finish, best finish we're going to see all season. But, I mean, Atlantic Coast was that close to being a district champion, or at least moving on to the playoffs for the first time.
Yeah, that's no disrespect now to Oakleaf. Oakleaf has a very, very good team under Derek Cipoletti. Nobody debates that. But Atlantic Coast is going to be thinking about how in the world did that one get away. All right, almost out of time. We'll take a break. When we come back, we've still got our alumni corner, and we're going to sort out some of these districts and tell you what's got to happen. Stay with us. That's next.
Do you want your team to be the best-looking team in town with the absolute best gear? Then you want Baker Sports. Since 1997, Baker Sports has been the stop for sporting goods, equipment, and gear, and has long been preferred by more college and high school teams in Northeast Florida than any other company. Middle school, youth, and Pop Warner, they all use Baker Sports. Baker Sports has the best design specialist, embroidery professionals, and silkscreen artists in town. For the best in sporting goods, it's Baker Sports.
Welcome back. Almost out of time on Baker's High School Huddle, but we always give you an alumni corner, a player that is from our area that is doing nice things at the collegiate level. I didn't know much about Mike Boone from Baker County. He must have been a under-the-radar guy a little bit, right?
Very good player in high school. He reminds me a lot of Charles Wade at Bishop Kenny, kind of a guy who does everything, offense, defense, special teams. He had a 2,083 all-purpose yards last year, 22 touchdowns, nearly 1,200 receiving yards last year, but he did everything so well. He was kind of a forgotten man in a sense.
Wow, well, how about he wasn't forgotten on over the weekend. 34-17 winners with Cincinnati over South Florida. What did Mike Boone do? 212 yards on the ground and a score. 212 in that game over USF. Congratulations to Mike Boone from Baker County. He is our alumni corner spotlight player of the week. All right, so congratulations to him. That is our alumni corner. Let's get to some district craziness now. I'm going to go right through all of them. Let's start at the top. 1-8A. We said it earlier. First Coast wins it, right? What happens with Mandarin and Flagler Palm Coast?
They play on Thursday night for it's basically a one-game playoff, and you're in. As you mentioned, First Coast won last week. They lost Sherrod Pittman to a broken leg, Big Ten linebacker. He's out of that one, so a costly win for First Coast, but they're in the playoffs. Mandarin Palm Coast, one-game run for the runner-up spot.
All right, let's get to 5A. 3-5A. Kenny, Westside, and Ribault all have beaten each other. Now, if they win out, what happens now?
These three teams, if they all win this week, they'll play a district tiebreaker on Monday, November 3rd for the district champion and the district runner-up spots.
How does that work? So they all play, they play 12-minute quarters, right?
12-minute quarters, and they'll be seeded accordingly. I think Bishop Kenny will be the first seed, Ribault 2, Westside 3, pending this week's outcomes. So they'll play in a quarter, and we'll see who goes from there.
So it's really interesting. For people that haven't followed this, all three teams, they all play each other. So that means one of those teams is going to go 2-0. One of them is going to be 1-1, and one of them is going to be 0-2. The two teams that win at least once move on, right? The team that wins twice is the district champion.
That's right, and it's we haven't had one of these involving local teams, all local teams, in quite some time. These things tend to sort themselves out by week 10, so it could be some craziness happening on Friday. Unusual scenario.
It really is. It's kind of a fun scenario. Again, that game's Monday, comes up a week from tonight is when they will do that. If indeed all three teams win, it'll be a week from tonight. They will move along. District 4, 5A, Ridgeview, Palatka, Ponte Vedra, Menendez. What's happening there?
It's essentially the same thing, although these 4 teams are chasing 1 playoff spot. All 4 of these teams still alive. Clay has clinched that district, but these 4 teams behind it battling for 1 playoff spot.
All right, District 3, 4A, we continue to move along. Rains has beaten both Bowles and West Nassau. Rains beat them both. Now those 2 teams play, so I assume Rains has won the district. Those 2 teams play down for spot number 2.
That's right. Rains district champion as they won last week, wrapped that up over West Nassau. So West Nassau and Bowles, and West Nassau a pretty good team. So West Nassau hosting Bowles on Friday night. District runner-up spot in 3-4A at stake.
Bowles has to win in Callahan to get to the postseason. Finally, 1-3A is a very interesting district. Both Providence and Trinity have both beaten Episcopal. It's only a 3-team district, so they're both in the playoffs, yet both are trying to get that top seed in the playoffs to get the home game. They play on Thursday night, so the winner gets the top spot. The team that doesn't win that game is still in the playoffs. But tell us about that game a little bit. Jamari Wakefield and all those yards against all those athletes from Trinity. How do you see that thing playing out?
You know, on paper, it looks like an easy Providence win, but when you factor in Providence's offensive line, how dominant that's been this season, and Jamari Wakefield, one of the top running backs in the nation as a junior, I mean, it really kind of amps up the stakes that this may not just be any kind of blowout game that we're expecting.
Yeah, easy Trinity win. I know what you meant. But certainly it may not be an easy Trinity win if Providence holds their own. All right, as we wrap up the program, we've got one more week. We will not be on next week. We will skip a week, then we'll be on to talk about the first round of the playoffs. Before we get to that, because we'll be in playoff mode, who are the teams that have the best chances to move on and to go deep in your mind? Trinity, I would think, would be obvious. First Coast? Who else?
Yeah, Trinity and First Coast are two of those guys, and I think maybe an Ed White out of 6A. I've got a lot of representation in that 6A pack, St. Augustine, Creekside, Ed White, Columbia, but I think Ed White's probably got the best chance.
All right, what a year it's been. It's almost over. How'd that happen? Didn't we just get here? Didn't we just start? Folks, that's going to do it for our Baker's High School Huddle this week. Thanks for being part of our program. It's certainly been a lot of fun. Again, no show next week. Then 2 weeks from tonight, our final show, when we have all the playoffs are set, we'll know which teams are playing whom as we move along in high school football. Thanks for being part of it. For Justin Barney, I'm Frank Frangie. So long.